So good evening, everybody, and welcome to the City Council meeting for December 15th, 2025 in South Burlington.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
Recording in progress.
Start again? Okay. So good evening again to the South Burlington City Council meeting for December 15th, 2025. This is the last City Council meeting of the year, just so you know, all right? We will start tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Andrew, would you like to lead us?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Andrew. Item 2 is the instructions on exiting this building in case of an emergency and review of our technology options with Jesse Baker, City Manager.
Thank you. Thank you for those who are joining us in the room. If there's an emergency in the room, you can go out either side of the rear of the auditorium and then turn left or right to get outside. For those joining us remotely on the Zoom webinar, if you would like to speak during any item on the agenda, please either indicate that you'd like to speak in the Q&A or raise your hand, and I will have the chair call on you. Otherwise, we are not monitoring the chat for content.
Thank you, Jesse. Item 3 is agenda review. Do we have any additions, deletions, or changes in the order of our agenda items tonight? Seeing as there are none, we will move on to item 4, which is the time for comments and questions from the public not related to tonight's agenda. Is there anybody here? I see Lydia, come on up, or either podium or table, and just make sure that green light is on. And pull the mic down for you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Remember to identify yourself.
Come on. My name is Lydia Diamond, and I'm a resident of South Burlington almost 20 years. Next year it'll be 20 years, believe it or not. But I'm here tonight because I need the South Burlington City Council to know that I feel invisible and unheard. I want to live in a city that's apartheid free. I asked that question of several council members. One was no, not never. The other one was, well, if you take the word Palestine out, maybe. And I just want to say, if I take the word Palestine out, I would put the word Black Lives Matter. So either way, I'm here because I ran for South Burlington City Council in 2023, 2024, and 2025. Not because I don't have anything better to do, but because there's no representation for me. And not just me, but there's no BIPOC representation, and there never has been for South Burlington. And when I say BIPOC, BIPOC means Black, Indigenous, People of Color. But that B also stands for Black, Brown, Beige, and Blended. I'm the first Black female to ever stand up for the BIPOC community, and South Burlington was incorporated in 1971. I'm the first to ask for your vote as reparations. And maybe I need to explain what reparations is. Reparations is something Black people have been waiting for way too long. Never been compensated as descendants of slavery. My family name, and I traced it to my great-great-grandfather, whose name was Justice. And I'm a descendant of slavery here in America. I'm not from Africa. My ancestors are from Africa. So I feel discriminated against by leadership of this city. I ran 3 times, and 2 times out of the 3, the winner stepped down. I went through the whole process again to be selected, and both times I wasn't. You chose not to select me, not to give me a chance, not to make history in South Burlington. My neighbor in my community had a city-owned tree fall on her house. And South Burlington said, it's not our problem. But I believe I said my neighbor had a city-owned tree fall on her house. And South Burlington is a great city to live in if you're white and wealthy. And that needs to change. I'm exhausted from being targeted, tormented, and traumatized because of the color of my skin. I need y'all to get some cultural competency training. Everybody. Running a campaign for office is ridiculously expensive. I don't have expendable finances. So to ask people to give me money to buy signs and do mailings, I'd rather feed people with that money. That's just me. And I want South Burlington to step up and be first to say, yes, we want to be apartheid free, because racism is real. And whether you know it or not, you practice systemic racism by not giving me a chance. And I don't appreciate it. There are others in this community who feel what I feel, who see what I see, except for y'all. Because y'all sit on your high horse and judge others. And it's not fair. It's not okay. It needs to change. And I want to mention that the Trinity Educational Center over there at the South Burlington University Mall asked y'all to help her with $13,000. And y'all did not. And I don't understand why not. What other educational center is there, Black owned, that caters to our students in the community? They need more, not less. And it's your responsibility to make sure that they have everything they need. So I want to know what you're going to do about the things that I've shared so far. Because I definitely want the apartheid-free pledge on the ballot. And I'm not asking. It should be unanimously on the ballot so that the community can decide. Because even when you have the numbers before you, you don't respond properly. You go the other way. I'm exhausted. I got 7 grandbabies to celebrate, not just working to make sure that people are seen and heard in this community. They need more leadership, not less.
Thank you, Lydia. Somebody else in the audience, either online? Come up, sir. If there's a bright green light on the base, that means it's active, so
It is on.
remember to identify yourself.
My name is Bo Denham. I'm on the board at South Village, and I'm here to ask the council to help us jumpstart our a recreational element that's been planned for South Village. Real quick background. Back around 2008, when the original developer planned South Village, land was set aside for a recreational element. The land would be eventually donated to the city. A funding mechanism was in place whereby the funds that the impact fees, the recreational impact fees, would stay in South Village. So any unit that was built in South Village, that fee went into an escrow fund that would eventually be used to pay for this element. And in the July of 24, a representative from SD Ireland and a representative from the HOA met with city advisors, and a memorandum of understanding was developed on how we might develop that land, and what kind of an element we might have there. It was a draft memorandum. It was never signed, and that's the last I've heard from the city about it. And then recently, I attended the presentation about the recent Parks and Rec and outdoor, I forgot what to call it, space that you had here last week. And it was pretty general. I was looking for more specifics, but it, didn't get any. And at the end of it, I asked about, what was considered for South Village, and was surprised to find out that it wasn't even considered. And it's something on the map. It's something they already have funding for. And I'm really surprised that it wasn't looked at, that no consideration was made to what might go there. We have some ideas. We'd be happy to share it with people, but no one asked us. It's something that's just been lingering for a while, and nothing really seems to be happening. So as you review this new Parks and Rec proposal that's coming your way, I guess, we would hope that something for South Village could be at the top of that list, and that you all could help us get that going.
Great. Full transparency. This is my brother-in-law.
Yeah. He told me I should come here.
Great. Thanks for that feedback. We can talk later about maybe an agenda item or some action at the end of the meeting at other items.
Okay.
So
Yeah, we'd appreciate it. Get it going. Thanks.
thank you, Mr. Denham. Anybody else? Comment from the public? Nobody online? Okay. All right.
Wait, somebody named Margaret.
Margaret, Joe. Yeah. Margaret, can you hear us? It looks like you're muted. Now you're there.
Yes. I'm Margaret Joyle. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I want to second what Lydia said. I think it is hard. I don't think you see a picture of me. I'm a white person. It's difficult. I want to acknowledge this. It's difficult to hear Lydia's feedback. It's difficult to understand how, even in tough times, how much privilege we have. I struggle with it, and I know it's true. And I just want us to think about how we can make sure that South Burlington includes all of its citizens, which include people from all over the world and from many different backgrounds. And I guess that's really all I have to say about it. I'd like to hear the board respond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Anybody else? Okay, then we will move on to item 5, which is Councilors Announcements and Reports on Committee Assignments, and then the City Manager's Report. Lori, do you want to go first?
Sure, I can do that. The only committee report that I have is for the Sextons, who met on the 9th, and they're moving forward with the beautification of the Eldred Cemetery, which they plan to start in the spring, and are working on proposed work plan for 2027, which they will be submitting before or in the spring. And they have worked up for signs that they'd like to get put up at both cemeteries that just outline rules and regulations for the cemeteries. And that wording is being sent on to Colin for review, and then DPW will make those signs and get them put in. The only other thing I wanted to share is, I think you all know I'm not there with you tonight because I tested positive for COVID. And I just wanted to note, I don't feel terribly sick. I felt like I had a head cold a few days ago, and I decided to test because my mother-in-law is 96 years old and we're being very cautious. And hey, I have COVID. And if I didn't test, I would just say, oh, I've just got a head cold. So just for the community, I think that there are probably a lot of us out there walking around thinking we have a head cold, and we in fact may be potentially contagious. So it's a different thing now that we're all vaccinated and et cetera. But just, it was an eye opener for me, and I wanted to share that so that people might think, oh, maybe this is more than just a head cold. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
So Lori, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for not sharing that.
Yes. Well, I hope you guys all stay healthy. And well, we're going to talk before the end, but this is our last meeting, so I want to make sure we say happy holidays to everybody too.
Great. Thanks, Lori. Ann?
Thank you. I attended the public meeting around the Park and Rec plan that was quite well attended and quite well attended by other councilors as well. I thought it was reflected some good work, and I look forward to seeing more detail and seeing some things like that. The SBC3, we've been meeting, and as well, they've been participating in the ugly sweater contest, of which hopefully it does not get publicized, but someone brought me an ugly sweater. I was a greeter, I was not a walker or a runner. But really, I mean, it was well attended. People had fun. I think there were over 125 participants, and people brought in money for the food shelf. The recreation department did a great job, and the role of part of SBC3 was to provide some volunteers in terms of that. And they also, for people to know, they have a wishing tree at U Mall, of which there are cards, and you can take a card and purchase what is on there to be given to families that have been identified by, I think, the Salvation Army. And if you notice, since on the 11th, earlier last week, we now have new artwork in our art gallery on the first floor, and there are 8 artists with connections to Vermont, and please come on 5 o'clock on Wednesday for the opening reception. And I look forward in the new year. We are engaged in conversations with with public art being donated, and so we'll have further information on that. But I think it's very exciting that we are incorporating more art into the parks and the city. And the holiday dinner, I participated because I love to cook. I participated in the holiday dinner for the I guess it was last Friday, and it was very well attended. The food was delicious, and again, the recreation staff did a fabulous job, and people were very appreciative of my being there. I will say that the group of people who were there, parking is a big concern, and paid parking is a big concern for the seniors, and they hope that we will have continued conversations on how to make it feasible for some of our lower income seniors, and they then like to talk about the parents who bring their kids into the library. And I said I would bring it up, so I have.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ann. Andrew?
Sure, thanks, Tim. So I attended an Economic Development Committee meeting. It was a wonderful presentation by UVM intern who spent lots of time collating and understanding all our commercial spaces and produced a database which we as a city will then use to help folks locate places that they could put their businesses in. So what, how much of that space is vacant and what's it being used for? And so that was a really good presentation. We talked about the peddler's ordinance. We had a continued discussion on the economic development plan and their hope that we will support them when we vote on the budget. I attended the bike ped meeting. They're coming up with signs, as they said they would when they came to present to us, that would incent people to be courteous when they're using our shared use paths, and I think they look pretty good. They're still refining it. We talked about the Safe Routes to School reorganization, some of the safety recommendations. We had a conversation with the counselor folks there. We talked about Wheeler Park a little bit, and the folks may be familiar with that discussion. The Wheeler Park parcel, there was some folks there who, talked about their public safety concerns. And we mentioned that the chief will be presenting, his ideas to us sometime in January, we hope, to address some of those concerns. We talked a little about the cemetery and the administrator and what's going to be in the budget. Then I attended the Chittenden County Municipal Legislative Session, which was very good, reviewed the housing goals of the county, talked about transit, land use, and climate resilience. Oh, and a joint meeting with Shelburne to talk about, discuss the possibility of some shared services.
Thank you, Andrew. Elizabeth?
Thanks. Also attended the Open Space and Rec Master Plan meeting, and as Andrew mentioned, the conversation with the counselor at Orchard School. Of note with that also, we met two newer residents who chose South Burlington and had an opportunity to sort of hear what motivated them to choose South Burlington. And aside from family, it is everything that we hope it is to new residents in terms of services, in terms of proximity to Burlington, in terms of open space, in terms of recreation. And it was really interesting to hear how engaged these folks were becoming in some of the local city initiatives that they hadn't been able to before where they had lived before. So kind of kudos to everyone in the city. And then the Housing Committee had a meeting, and a big chunk of the meeting was a presentation by Moreau Weinberger and Jordan Roydell. I might misspoke her name, but with the Let's Build Homes initiatives. And the goal that they have is really to help implement across the state some of the legislation that has been passed in the last year or so. And I think I indicated at the last meeting that the Housing Committee will be bringing forward a resolution to council to consider that supports this initiative, which is very supportive of city plan goals as well as economic development goals and Housing Committee goals as well. That's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. I attended a planning commission meeting where, once again, bedrock removal was the item at hand. And some more feedback was given to the planning and zoning staff, and they were going to take back that and maybe look at a couple of small tweaks. I don't think it's anything major. They did go out and do a comparison to other towns in Vermont, and I think in one in Massachusetts looked at what their noise ordinance are with respect to construction in their respective towns. I also attended the SB3C reception at the Copper Restaurant. It was pretty well attended. Governor Douglas was there, former Governor Douglas, and there was some nice, very good finger food. It was great to network and talk to people and be excited about, the vibrancy that committee is going to bring to, the downtown area. I also attended a very short Chittenden County Communications Union District meeting. It's the last one of the year. All the work is pretty much done, and I think I've announced before that they got funding through BEAD for extension of fiber throughout other towns besides South Burlington, because we already have a lot of good service like Essex and Williston, Essex Junction, to extend high-speed internet to those underserved major routes and homes. I also attended the same meeting that Andrew did, where we talked about regional service sharing with Shelburne and other towns, perhaps. And I went to the CCRPC legislative breakfast, as Andrew did, and he already talked about those things. I had a brief conversation with the Williston town manager about the local sales option tax and how the opacity of the source of those taxes can be frustrating, and it's an issue that this city council has kicked around for years with respect to the Vermont tax department and the ability we have to understand whether all the businesses that should be producing these local sales option taxes actually are, and so it's going to be an ongoing conversation. At least this year, we're going to get the extra 5%, right? So that's a big win that the city will retain 75% rather than 70% of that 1% of the local sales option tax. We also had a big budget meeting, which nobody mentioned last week, right? That went on for about 4 hours, where we heard from everybody except for the police department, who's going to be up tonight, hearing what those budget proposals are. And we had a wonderful meal provided by Andrea. Thank you very much, and thank her for us, right, for providing that. And if you didn't notice, if you've driven up Dorset Street, the Veterans Memorial Park is just absolutely sparkling every night. There are beautiful Christmas lights, holiday lights there. There's a blue tunnel, there's a yellow tunnel. Please take your time to drive up there, walk up there, and walk around and visit all of the beautiful lights that are up there. Dorset Street's got 2 major light shows going on now, right? There's one down at Nolan Farm Road, which is there every year. Go slow, watch out for cars, right? But the park is a little safer. I also want to take a moment to reflect about some tragedies that have happened, like just in the last 24, 48 hours. I mean, I just can't understand how we've had 2 more mass shootings, one here in Providence and one in Australia. Innocent people killed for absolutely no reason at all. And then on top of it, a very famous director and actor, Rob Reiner, and his wife, both killed, supposedly by their son, who has been struggling with mental health and substance abuse issues. Just horrific tragedies and they're packed in so tight. Every week brings more and more pain, either to people directly or just indirectly by hearing about what's going on. I just want to mention that because I think everybody needs to, think about those things that have happened and how they could be prevented, or what we need to do to try and bring more. This is a time of the year where we're supposed to be having more peace, right? So I just wish that could happen for a lot of places where there's a lot of conflict right now. That's all I have. Thank you, Jesse.
Thanks. So as we are meeting, the school board is having their public session about the permanent superintendent search. So I was asked to share with the community and the council that we'd have 2 finalists for that position. I was the city representative on the search committee. It was a very impressive, thorough process with candidates from far and wide. But we have 2 great finalists. Joe Clark, who is our current interim superintendent of schools. Before being here, he has been a superintendent in several different districts in Ohio of 3,500 students, 15,000 students, and 750 students. So really a breadth of experience. He's a professor at the American College of Education and holds a PhD from Kent State University. The second candidate is named Timothy Matheny. He was recently the superintendent of schools in South Portland, Maine, which is a very comparable district to us. He is currently serving as a consultant. He's also served as the Chief Intervention Officer and Director of Education Evaluation for the New Jersey Department of Education. Did you ever know? No. And holds a Master's of Art in Educational Administration and Policy from the University of Michigan and a bachelor's from Princeton University. So two incredibly talented candidates. The committee was fairly unanimous that we would be incredibly well served by either of them. So excited to hear how the school board moves forward. Also, I shared this with the council on Friday, but want to share with the community that last week we were awarded a $30,000 municipal planning grant from the state to build our building and thermal implementation plan of our climate action plan. So, you know, a continued success in taking that plan and leveraging non-property tax dollars into implementing that plan and improving our climate resiliency. And then, as it's the last council meeting of the year, do want to note that several of our offices will kind of go down to lower staffing over the next few holiday weeks so folks can be with their families and loved ones. But your public safety professionals will be here every minute of the day if you should need us. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Jesse. And don't forget, starting January 4th, the library will be open on Sundays from 9 to 3, right?
Yep.
Yeah, great. All right. So let's move on to item 6, which is the consent agenda. We have several items. 6A is consider and sign our disbursements. 6B is approve resolution number 2025-25 on IT infrastructure. 6C is authorize the city manager to accept and record an easement deed and bill of sale for a 20-foot wide storm pipe from AAM Burlington Hotel LLC. 6D, approve the minutes from October 20th, November 3rd, and November 17th of 2025. And 6E, approve a contract with Alliance Electric to install EV chargers and related equipment at the police station at 19 Gregory Drive and authorize the city manager to execute the documents. Can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
We have a set motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
No, but I just would like to highlight 6E and thank Jesse, thank staff for this, this wonderful contract to move forward with up to 16 EV chargers at the police station for use by the public. It's done in such a way that the city will hopefully receive the benefit of a 30% credit from the federal government, and the entire thing is being paid for out of our Energy Project Reserve Fund, which is a fund. The money doesn't come from our general fund. It comes from a fund which is accumulating dollars that the city has saved by implementing energy efficiency measures. So this is just a wonderful fruit of that terrific program, and I just want to highlight that for the community.
Revolving fund, right?
Yeah.
And all credit to Lou Brzee, who is in the room, and Bettina Miguez.
And what will the tariff be for those chargers initially? Will it be 22 cents per kilowatt hour like the ones here, or is it first 2 years free? Do we know? We don't know. We'll find out. All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Do you want to come down?
Oh, here he comes.
It was on. Lou Brzee, Energy Project Manager. The plan right now is to keep the rate the same as what we're using for all the other locations. I do expect that within the next 6 to 8 months, we will be back to the council to make a slight adjustment to those rates based on what we've seen in the last year, but it'll be very small.
Are those chargers, are they charging state tax now? Because at Global Foundries, when I pull out the plug, it says, oh, 1 cent for this and there's 2 state charge tax rates on it now. Is that because it's a municipal charger, not a commercial?
I've never seen anything discussing that at all.
We'll be in touch.
I'd rather not.
Thank you, Lou. So we have a motion on the table. You ready for the vote? All those in favor say aye.
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 It is unanimous. Thank you, Lori. We will move on to item 7, which is the FY27 budget for the police department presentation. Chief of Police Bill Bro, come on down. Everybody notice the nice uniform, which is new today? Is it new today, or was it brand new today? Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is that bright light on?
It is.
Okay.
The green light's on.
Make sure you pull that mic up.
Are you getting you're saying you're declining. You have to accept the panelist thing?
Yep.
So while the chief is pulling up his presentation, I will note that as the council knows, he was not here for our budget retreat because he was at the police academy in Vermont. When you come in from out of state and are a certified officer somewhere else, you are required to go through some portion of local Vermont certification. So he was at the academy all week week and is now provisionally certified. Yep, that's great.
Are you getting it?
What?
Are you getting my presentation?
No, you'll see it pop up. Hold on, let me go up.
She's good at IT stuff. Fixed your problem.
Do you have it on your
Share.
screen? Yeah, just go to whatever.
This is
Yeah.
it.
Here, can I drop for a second?
Sure. Thank you. All set? So good evening, Bill Bro, Police Chief. It's my honor to be here presenting the FY27 budget. With me is, back in the back of the room, is Deputy Chief Briscoe, Sean Briscoe, and Executive Administrative Assistant Libby Connors. They are both here. I did not build this budget. Obviously, it was built before I got here. I have reviewed it. I agree with it. But they really spent a lot of time putting it all together. So they're here if we have any very specific questions. I thought it would be helpful before we get into the actual budget numbers to give you a quick snapshot of what the police department's activity level is. This is calendar year 24 data. As you can see by the data there, the department does a whole host of things. We responded to a little over 12,000 calls for service in calendar year 24. It's important to note that 78% of that, a large portion of what we do at the South Burlington Police Department, what we respond to is non-criminal offenses. Only about 16% of those calls that we take were reported actual crimes, and those are crimes by definition of Vermont statute. So we strongly encourage people to call the police anytime they have a concern, but I think it highlights that the police department, responds to a whole host of citizen concerns, not just criminal activity. We did make about just shy of 800 traffic stops, or about 6% of what we do. I'll be completely honest, that is not I expect higher numbers for an agency our size and a community our size. So that is one thing that the deputy chief and I are working on, making sure that our officers are out there enforcing more traffic offenses than what we did in calendar year 24. I also want to highlight two other areas that I think are indicative of what we're seeing in the community. The first is retail theft and non-retail theft. 448 non-retail thefts and over 500 retail thefts in one calendar year is really, really high for a community our size. I think it's indicative of what we're seeing in a future slide I'll get to on the quality of life, what I call quality of life related offenses, things that are driven by a person's economic status, by their housing status, by their substance use or untreated mental illness. Those, not all of those, of course, but some of those, a good percentage of those are related to that. It's indicative to those challenges that we're facing. I also want to highlight the very, very low numbers of robberies and burglaries. For a community our size, those are really, really good numbers that they're that low. I think it's indicative of what it shows to me is that the city is very safe, and your likelihood of being a victim of a crime in South Burlington is extremely low.
Chief, before you move on from this slide, so
Sure.
does that, the 4 and 16 robberies, does that include car break-ins? Is that in a different
No,
category?
that's a different category.
Okay.
Those are somebody breaking into a business or a residence, and most
Okay.
of our
And
burglaries
then
are business
you
related.
mentioned people, actually, we should feel safe, and that's like, public safety is people perceive, some people perceive that they're unsafe, but could you speak to how much actual person-on-person assault or, things where person's safety was actually compromised in?
Those numbers are also very, very low. Most of our person-on-person crimes are unfortunately domestic related or people are known to each other. Very few, almost zero stranger related violence.
Almost zero.
Yeah. It's extremely low.
Okay.
Again, I agree with you. It's not only about the actual numbers, right, and the actual safety. It's about the perception of safety, and we're responsible for both of those.
No, but it's also helpful for the community to know in terms
Absolutely.
of the community perception that the actual numbers on third-party, assault or the third-party compromising another person's safety is zero or close to zero.
Right.
Is a very important statistic.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And we see that a lot, that perception of danger, a lot with our homeless folks and people that that often their behavior is concerning, but it's not illegal, right? And you've probably heard me say this before, and you'll certainly hear me say it again. We, as a police department, we have to police people's behavior, not the person, right? So regardless of their characteristic, regardless of the fact that they're housed or unhoused, or whether their mental health is treated or untreated, we need to police what they're actually doing, and no other characteristic about that person.
Can I quick comment there to that as well? But I appreciate Andrew's comment and question, but I also feel like invasion of personal space vis-a-vis a car or a home or, a wallet or purse or whatever it might be, that's not just a perception of safety. That is real to
Sure.
many people.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
Do you think that-
I'm giving you the numbers based on, in my, I guess, assessment of those numbers based on the per capita, the size of our population. In my experience, again, doing this for 27 years, those numbers for the amount of the population of the city, those numbers are actually really good and indicative of a safe community.
Do you think that the 2025 numbers are about the same or any?
Yeah, they track very, very closely.
Okay.
We just haven't finished the calendar year,
Right.
so I didn't want to give you those. I have looked at those. Since October 6th when I started, I've been looking at those numbers, and they are tracking. All categories are tracking essentially the same. The next slide is the organizational chart. What you can see there is a couple things, and as you can tell, we have a pretty modest organizational chart. The dark blue are the filled positions, and the light blue are the positions that are funded but currently vacant. So our sworn officer strength, authorized strength, is 40 officers. We currently have 32. So that creates a few openings. We also have 3 officers in training currently that finished the police academy just before Thanksgiving. So they're in their second week of field training. And we have 1 officer who's deployed on a military deployment. So we are currently operating with 28 of our sworn 40 staff members. Some key success is this year are what has become very clear to me over the few months that I've been here is that although recruitment challenges, and I'll get to those in a minute, and which are not unique to South Burlington, is that the people that we do have are really outstanding. We have not, and I certainly will not lower our standards just to fill positions. And the young people that we have hired have been outstanding. To include the 4 that we the 3 that we currently have in field training. The other major success that's absolutely worthy of noting is the leadership transition. Chief Burke's departure had ripple effects that were managed very, very well by Deputy Chief Briscoe for several months over the summer, and he should really be congratulated on maintaining the outstanding services that the police department provided during that time. I also certainly want to thank him and Libby and the entire department for welcoming me the way they did and really helping me hit the ground running. It's been challenging not having a certification as a law enforcement officer until last week, but we got through all of that, and now here we are. Other challenges that we are facing, probably the largest one facing all of law enforcement right now, and the one that I think impacts our ability to provide the high level of services, is police officer vacancy. Policing is a people business, and although we need equipment and other things to be successful, it's really people that provide the services. We can have the nicest cars and the best equipment, and we need those types of things, but it's really the people that get the job done, whether it's dispatchers or police officers or administrative staff. That's what we need to deliver the services that we need to deliver. Finding suitable candidates is difficult. And again, that's not unique to South Burlington. It's a challenge I faced in New Hampshire. It's a challenge facing police leadership really nationwide. There simply is not a lot of people that want to become police officers today. Additionally, this graph really shows that separations or retirements, particularly in the sworn ranks, have been and are outpacing our ability to bring on people. What doesn't show in this slide is even when we are able to find that perfect candidate and get them hired, it takes about a full year to take somebody from, that candidate that applied to a solo police officer. So, and obviously it takes, only a few weeks to retire. So, there has this, additionally, we also have an experience gap within the agency. This is another issue that's facing law enforcement. Law enforcement in general, and particularly here in South Burlington, we're a very young department. We have a handful of folks at the top end that are retirement eligible. Unfortunately, 5 of them are retirement eligible in fiscal year 27. And most of our staff has less than 5 years of service, which means there's a gap of experience in the middle, which is concerning. We need to find ways to encourage retiring members to stay, or people that are retirement eligible to stay, to give people time to get that experience needed so they can move into supervisory and leadership roles.
Do you have ideas on how to do that?
Yes, I think we can look at, I think we have a unique opportunity here in South Burlington because of the South Burlington pension system that our current employees know. New employees are now part of VEMR's, the Vermont Municipal Retirement System. I think there's ways to incentivize people under the older system hired before 2018. Some of them are now retired. Most of them are now retirement eligible. Incentivize them, allow them to draw some of their pension, if not all of their pension, which they're entitled to, but also stay and then re-enroll in VEMR's. We can do it, or quite frankly, they're going to do it somewhere else. We are other.
Will you come back to us with some fleshed out?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm working through that now with VEMR's and with the South Burlington Retirement System. But the reality is, we have employees that will retire from us tomorrow, and then be able to go work in Shelburne or Winooski or a different neighboring community because of that retirement change. Why let that experience walk out the door? Why, if we can figure out a way to keep them. There's some legalities in that I'm working through now, but I will be working with the city manager on that and coming back with something more robust. We talked about it already. A challenge that, again, not unique to South Burlington is the continued increase in calls that are related to unmet social service needs. Calls that generally have a connection to an individual's mental health, substance use, or housing status. We need to find ways to connect people to services, particularly those who are service resistant, I believe, and I'm sure most of you have heard me say this, the police department is not the most best equipped agency or structure. The criminal justice system is not structured to best to deal with these individuals. But the fact of the matter is we're called, and we're called a lot to intervene in situations. We need to figure out ways to really be the bridge to the most appropriate service. I know that often people say, well, there's just not enough services available, and I agree with that. I don't disagree with that at all. However, that doesn't mean we don't try to connect people to the services that are there. This slide it shows different call types that, again, I think are indicative of what we're seeing. Trespassing, clearly related to our unhoused individuals, is dramatically rising since over the last 10 plus years. All categories have. You might see a slight reduction in mental health, police-only mental health response. That coincides with our increased use of the Howard Center Community Outreach Team. So those numbers are a little deceiving. I think we're doing a better job bringing people in that we have access to, but I think we need to, again, find solutions to address more of these concerns. I do have some ideas there. One way may be to enact specific ordinances that if a person violates, for instance, camping on public property, that we give them an ability, a way to divert out of any sort of penalty if they agree to certain services, whether that's through the criminal justice center or it's directly through the police department. I have met with a handful of different social service agencies that are willing to work with us to come up with plans. Again, this is something that I have pretty good track record in New Hampshire of putting things in place to connect people to services. I don't think, particularly for these level of offenses, that we should be looking to enact an ordinance or do anything that, quite frankly, just compounds the issue for the person. So in other words, it doesn't make sense just to level a fine against somebody who certainly can't afford to pay the fine. We're just going to make the problem worse for that individual. It really should be about how can we leverage the system to be the stick, so to speak, into getting them to accept services, and that being the carrot.
So, Chief, you alluded to this. The trespass, is that mostly like unhoused camping on private land? Is that what that is?
A lot of those are. Some of that could be that. A lot of those are people whose behavior, a lot of it is because of untreated mental health or because of their economic status, have committed thefts or other things in retail establishments. Those may be businesses that have asked us as a police department to serve somebody a trespass notice, and then the person returns and gets arrested. Again, we are working with the tools that we have available to us, and serving people trespass orders is one of those tools. I think we need to really think creatively and start to collaborate with some of our social service providers to say, if we do certain things like an ordinance, how can we give this person the ability to not face a penalty, or as part of the penalty of that ordinance to be connected to services.
So is that on commercial properties you're referring to? Is that?
Some of those are commercial properties, sure.
I'd love to understand that. I mean, people are entitled to walk commercial. We don't have to do this now, but I'd love to understand what it means to trespass on a commercial property. I'm just curious about that trespass line and how we're
sure. You absolutely
thinking about that. And
we can talk offline. I'll be happy to answer any questions. But yes, absolutely. Anybody could ask somebody to be trespassed. They have to have a reason for it, obviously. But most of it is behavior driven. It may not be criminal. So there's. The police department can't arrest the person for the behavior, but that business owner certainly doesn't want that person back in their business. We see that really on a daily basis.
Chief, before you get off the slide, the well-being checks, do you have any sense as to how many of those, or are the bulk of them for people who are living outdoors, or are the well-being checks more relatives, neighbors concerned about they haven't seen someone in a while?
It's a combination of both. One of the challenges that we have, and one of the things I'm working on, is collecting the right data. One of the things that's become clear to me is we do a great job in collecting like what we're responding to, but not getting granular enough to look into that without reading all 687 reports. So we are looking to figure that out and collect that data much better. For instance, when we dealt with people that were camping, we did not differentiate. Up until October, we didn't differentiate between public property and private property. That's important for us to understand, right? So we can put the right things in place. So to answer your question, it's a combination of those. Unfortunately, without going through every single one of those calls for service and literally reading every officer's report, I can't tell you. I can tell you anecdotally, it's a combination of those things. I think one of the reasons we're seeing an increase, two major reasons, is indeed that people that are living outdoors, that are other people are calling on their behalf because they're concerned about them. I think it also goes to untreated mental illness, and that isn't just people that lives outdoors. That's other people's family members. What we saw around in California, I think, is a perfect example of that. That people are responding or seeing things and calling the police department. Again,
So I think that I'm actually equally concerned about our senior citizens who are living alone.
absolutely.
And do we still have a volunteer or where a police can make a call or they're supposed to call the police every day
Yep.
so that people know they're alive and well?
We do that, yes. And I was in dispatch this morning. And those
Do we
calls come.
advertise that so that families know that there's something, there are different things that, we have a lot of senior citizens who live alone or,
We do advertise it. Frankly, we could probably do a better job getting that word out a little bit more. It is on our website. It is. We do put posts out on social media occasionally. We could probably do a better job highlighting that and highlighting people's abilities to connect to other services that are offered. It is a combination of that. And although these are the calls that we're responding to, and a lot of those are met by people's or are caused by people's unmet social service needs in general. You bring up a very valid point. It's not just the unhoused people. It's not just what people might have in their head. It is people's family members. There's a whole host of those things. But again, it's all the same issue, right? It's that unmet need. How do we get people connected to services? It is generally easier, again, anecdotally, to connect people to services who are, who have loved ones who care for them and have loved ones who can help them navigate sometimes very complex systems to get into treatment. It's more complex when that is somebody who doesn't have those supports, who is living on the street, who may have a substance misuse issue as well. So I show the slide just to highlight this is what we are dealing with, and as the slide shows, these things are increasing.
Can I ask a quick question on this? And Chief, I think you indicated this before, but within any one of these categories, have you done any kind of analysis that would parallel what Burlington was finding, where there's a small percentage of repeat offenders in any one of these categories?
Yeah, I haven't looked at it to these categories specific, but we have looked at our top 20, for lack of a better term, users of our system, right? Either that's people that are calling us directly, but most of the time it's people that we're being called about. And we are looking at just that top 20. It wasn't even 20, accounted for a very high percentage. And we've been doing that kind of on a month by month basis. So for November, who are our top 20, and for December. And that is one of the strategies that I'm looking at, is how do we then work with a community outreach team to say, how do we look at these individuals kind of more uniquely and more individually, and come up with, again, for lack of a better term, more of an individualized treatment plan, right? How do we how does law enforcement work with community outreach to, when we are dealing with these individuals, put a plan in place that helps best address their needs. Again, a lot of those folks are just service resistant. They just don't want to get connected. They know the services are there. They just don't want to do anything about it. So then the next question becomes, how do we use the system to encourage them to do that? And if that's, somehow, we certainly need to hold them accountable to their behavior, but how do we put the right thing in place, so the right penalty in place to encourage them to get to that again, because simply just putting a penalty on them just compounds the issue. We're not changing anything, we're actually making it worse. So I hope what you're all understanding here is it's a very complex issue. There isn't just let's pass an ordinance and we can address this. It isn't that simple. One of the slides that I have here is an emerging issue. And I intentionally defined it as an emerging issue because simply it's not a current challenge that the police department is facing, but I think it's one that we need to be prepared, or at least I need to make sure that we're reviewing to make sure that we are able to appropriately respond. And that is what you see on the slide, city growth. And by no means am I anti-growth, or I think growth is bad. In fact, vibrant, particularly a downtown, a vibrant, healthy and growing downtown is very important for the city. But it's also, it also helps us do things like recruit, new officers, people that want to be in the community. I think it also puts more eyes on it and actually increases safety. The reason I put this as an emerging issue, because it's simply something that we need to be prepared to ensure that we can provide the high level of services. As particularly with density, we need to continually review call data to ensure operationally we're able to provide the level of service that the community expects. For example, will our existing beach structure works once city center is fully occupied? Our beach structure is how we deploy our officers per shift. I want to make sure that any impact in one part of the city doesn't have a negative impact in another part of the city. So, if one city center is fully occupied and we're spending more time here, which I'm not saying that's a negative thing, and I'm not saying it's going to be because of crime, but the more people that are in the area, the more eyes are on an issue, the more we're likely to get called, right? An example of that may be disturbances, either domestic disturbances or just noise disturbances. If you live in a more rural area and there's 3 acres between you and your neighbor's probably not going to call in an argument, right? But if you're sharing a common wall with that neighbor and there's an argument going on, you're far more likely to call. All of that increases safety. It's a good thing. However, it will increase calls for service. So I want to make sure that we're not inadvertently reducing services to another part of the city, right? Everybody should enjoy the same level of police protection. What does that mean moving forward? Quite frankly, I don't know. It's something that we need to look at. There are no specific budget implications in this budget. There may be in future budgets. I can envision a time, probably in the relatively near future, where we will have a dedicated either a city center beat, or we will at least have a dedicated city center liaison officer, somebody that's responsible for at least part of the time making those connections with residents, making those connections with business owners and property managers. The good news is both Deputy Chief Briscoe and I come from agencies that have very robust and very active and vibrant downtowns, and we both have some strategies in mind to help manage that. Again, it's to make sure we're providing the best service to that area, but also that we're not, again, inadvertently creating a problem somewhere else. And that's why I put the slide there. Again, there's no direct budget implications this year, but I think it is something that we need to look at and keep a close eye on from a public safety perspective. That brings me to the actual dollars and cents, kind of the whole reason we're here. The proposed budget is about $640,000, a little over $640,000 more than the current fiscal year, and that's a 7.7% increase. Although that is a large number, it's really driven by three budget drivers, or three reasons. Again, people are our biggest asset, and the largest one of those is contractual obligations. The contract year that is covered by fiscal year 27, the contract obligations for that year are over 500,000, or 6.5% of that. So again, a big percentage of that increase is obligations that we have all agreed to with our employees. That is important for us to make sure we do, because we really need to remain as competitive as possible in the region and in the state, and really beyond, to make sure that we can retain our current employees and recruit employees. The second is there's an error there. It should say second of a 10-year contract for our body-worn cameras, which is a $45,000 increase, or a 0.05% increase. And the third is 50,000, or 6% increase, is 0.6% increase, is for the debt service for the already completed dispatch center.
Chief, the contractual obligations, is that based on full staffing or based on the staffing we have now that is not sufficient?
That's based on if we were fully staffed. So,
And Chief,
I'm sorry.
I had a question also. I'm assuming that the full budget is based on a fully staffed force as well. Is that correct?
Correct. And I really think that's the only way to do that. I can tell you from my experience in New Hampshire, we tried that of not fully staffing or moving that money, and we ended up in 1 year through attrition, lost 6 positions, and it took about 14 years to get those 6 positions back, because every time you do that, you have to, nobody wants to increase the budget again. So my recommendation is absolutely to keep those officers there. We are working hard to fill positions. I don't want to leave you with the wrong impression. We are working very, very hard to fill positions. We are making headway, but it is a challenge. And again, my job is to be honest with you and to provide you what our challenges are, and that is one of our largest challenges.
I'm assuming that you don't expect to be fully staffed by the end of this next fiscal year. Is that correct?
I'm not, again, probably not, but I'm not, at this point, I can't say that.
We'd love it.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to get us there, and I'm going to, that's my goal, is to get us fully staffed. But there's a lot of factors in play with that. I think the fact that we were able to put 3 recruits in the academy, we do have 2 very solid candidates for future academies right now, and there's we're constantly evaluating and looking at candidates. So as I reviewed the budget again that the deputy chief and Libby and others put together, I looked at it with a couple key considerations in mind. And that was some things that I ask you to keep in mind is, overall service demands will continue to increase and change as South Burlington grows. We will always need those 40 officers, and most likely need more at some point. Our ability to recruit and retain staff is essential to maintain the high quality of life that South Burlington residents and visitors expect. One of the things that will, I think, really hurt our ability to staff is if even on paper, we start removing sworn positions. I think that sends the wrong message to potential applicants, and quite frankly, I think it's demoralizing to the people that we have. I think it's also imperative that the department continues to work in order to maintain the community's trust while also improving staff performance and reducing potential liability. A big part of that is what we're doing with our body-worn cameras and training and other things. And emergency services continue to be on the front line of the mental health crisis. looked upon to assist those in need. And I think we're doing a really good job with what we have in place. And I think, again, over the next few months, we'll be putting more things in place. In closing, I understand the budget of the police department is significant, and I do not take it lightly. But I believe that it's necessary. There's nothing in this budget that I looked at to say we don't need this to provide a good quality of service. In fact, I think if you look at the budget minus those drivers, it's really a flat budget from the prior year. People need to feel and be safe here, and I think the budget that we're presenting allows us to continue to provide the high quality of services that the city and the police department is known for. And that's it. I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Council, have other questions for the chief? Lori, any other questions?
No, thank you so much for the presentation, and my questions don't indicate that I don't have full confidence in all you are doing, so thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's great. So thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Sorry you couldn't make it a Thursday, but
Me too.
now you're in uniform.
I much rather would have been with you folks at the academy.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
So we're going to move on to item 8, which is the FY27 council discussion about the budget and receive additional information from staff and discuss the council's feedback on the proposed budget. Jesse Baker and Steve Locke and Martha Machar. So come on down if you need to. Or...
Martha's going to come down. Yep. Hey, Chief. Chief, can you stop sharing your... Thank you.
Stop the sharing. Just don't end the meeting. Yeah, oh, good point. Yes. There we go.
Good job. So I guess by way of introduction, some of you had asked questions earlier in the budget process. This is really meant to be your discussion of next steps and what you'd like to see between now and the public hearing. But Martha did put together some additional information in her memo to you based on the questions you asked, as well as a recommendation of how to get the budget down to the 3.3 target goal. So I will let her take it from here.
Thank you, Jesse. Martha Machar, Finance Director. At the December 1st council meeting, the general proposed budget was presented to the council with an increase of 3.51. The council asked to go back and revise the budget and come back to their original recommended goal of 3.3. So in the memo provided to you, we are proposing to, well, the difference between the 3.3 and the 3.51 in the is about $49,000. So to find $49,000, we said, okay, within the operating budget, it was very hard to do. And so we are recommending that the council fund a portion of the capital project, CIP project, with that amount. And that is an existing project that was funded in FY26, budgeted over the 2 fiscal years, and had $60,000 included in the FY27. So if the council approved this recommendation of 49 of the 60 that is included in the proposed budget presented to the council December 1st will be coming out of the general fund reserve fund, and 11,000 would be included in the budget. And that brings the current services level to a 2.3%, and the add-on that was recommended to the council, which add an additional 1% for a total of 3.3%, which the council asked us to look into. So in addition to that, there were a few other questions that were asked. One of those was the impact of the healthcare and the wages and benefit. So in it, the memo provided here does include what the total budget is, about 37%. That is the proposed budget as was presented to you. It does not include the recommendation of taking out the 49 amount. And what the total benefit is, which the total benefit here for the city is about 62% of the total proposed budget amount. And in comparing the benefits in the healthcare, the healthcare itself is about 16% of the total wages and benefit, total of that 62%. And in the union contract, there is an amount included or a percent that the employee needs to contribute into the healthcare that the city pays. And that is estimated based on the current election, whether an employee are electing to buy into the city's healthcare, and also what their current group is, whether they're family 1 or 2 person. That does change during the year, but what is presented in here is what those elections are as of November. And that is a total of about about $436,000. So when that is netted out of the wages and benefit of and the health care, it brings down the percent of the health care to benefit and health care comparison to about 14%. That was one of the questions that asked by Elizabeth. No, we did not answer it to you last week, but decided to include it in this additional information for you. Another question was the number of vacant positions right now. We do have about 11. 8 of those are police officers and 3 of them are public works. As Sheep said, those are actively being recruited. Both position 11. And another question asked was whether there was an attrition included in the budget. As of the recommendation to you, there's no attrition included in the current budget. The idea is that both union contract and new this year, huge increases to be competitive with the market. And as we are seeing, the number of vacant positions is actually going down, maybe because of that, or maybe because the market is going up. And we are not foreseeing that the same number of vacancies that we've carried over the past few years might be the same or now. So it's hard to determine what percent of that vacancy would be occurring in FY27, given that we are still in FY26. And in addition to that as well, any vacant savings that we realize during the year, those are rolled into fund balance. So even if we do not budget right now an attrition into the budget, that's going to roll into the city's reserve that the city can then decide to spend in the future. And the third question that was also included was on the 2.3 million for the recreation impact fees. So, and the information included in the memo is how the impact fees and the use of the impact fees and what determine what projects are included in that. And those are ordinance based. We cannot, those funds in the recreation impact fees, and hence the reason that track in a special fund and not general fund is that those are governed by the ordinance.
It's an ordinance or is it a report? Or the report is what, like referenced in the ordinance and becomes an ordinance? Just is that how it works?
The recreation impact fees?
Yeah, no, it just the memo says that the spending is based on analysis report prepared in 2013. Is that report an actual ordinance?
No, but the ordinance references the report, and you can only raise the funds as defined in the report.
Okay.
The analysis does inform the ordinance.
It's really interesting. I some of these projects I never heard of, so thank you for laying this out. It's actually really helpful. I also didn't appreciate we were using some of these fees for shared use paths, so that's really interesting. But I gather we're going to be updating the report, so we'll get a peek at it.
It's kind of coincidental that my brother-in-law was here asking about South Village, right?
Yeah.
And initially, a long time ago, it was about a soccer field. It's no longer really about a soccer field. The residents there don't really want that, but they want to come up with a plan for something there. And so the project recreation impact fees table that we have here, this is what's planned to be spent out of, but is there a balance larger than this already? Or there is, okay. Because I know, I'm pretty sure that the South Village allocation is much higher than 100,000. I'd heard it was like at least 300 or
Yes, so the South Village impact fees, those are actually even tracked separately because
separate.
those are
Right. Yeah.
defined
Okay.
separately. But what is included in the memo is what is being planned for this 1 year. So it's just
Okay.
a conception of what that
Okay,
project
right.
is going to be, not the actual construction of what that is.
Yeah, this was interesting to me as well because some of these didn't come up at all in the master plan discussion. So I put a note on kind of other business that, and I think you've alluded to this, Tim, already, is kind of understanding what was the basis for identification of these, and then that weaves in the South Village because I've only heard it referred to as a soccer field, and I didn't know if there was a process by which that had to be modified, or if that's already happened. Thanks.
Or what happened to some of the other possibilities that are on there that are in a different part of the town, the city?
Yeah, exactly. Can we go back up to the proposal to take the $49,000? That seems like a great idea to me. Do we know what the improvement is to that signalization or intersection? Do you have any idea? No.
Do you know off the top of your?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
So what is the proposed improvement to the White Street Patchen Road signal light? Is it just modernization and
I think that's just demonstration of the signal itself.
okay, like conversion of detectors to being on the mast rather than being underground and stuff like that? Because that, you know,
Not sure if
So let me read to you what's in your CIP.
okay.
So it says, the description is add hardware and software to the Patchen White Street intersection so that it can be coordinated with the recent upgrades to the nearby Williston White Williston Patchen intersection.
Okay.
And the status is not started yet, but the improvements to the nearby Williston Heinsberg and Williston Patchen road will be completed at the same time or ahead of this project.
okay.
So it's trying to align all of those intersections at the
because
same time.
that's a frustrating intersection because it should be timed kind of with the Patchen Road, Williston Road, you know, if possible. Or every time I go there, I go, why don't we just have 4 stop signs?
Well, and I mean, what I hear about is people having trouble crossing the street.
There is a pedestrian crossing.
I'm just
Yeah,
reporting. I mean,
yeah.
that,
So,
that,
I mean,
that,
you-
that it's hard to
Yeah.
cross the street.
Right, because it's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of traffic on that. So,
Jesse, do you need something from us on the?
well, I wasn't done yet.
Oh, good.
So then the question was, why take just 49? Why don't we add the 11 in there too? You know.
That's the council called. The recommendation to us was to come back with you with a 3.3%,
Okay.
but you can decide to fund the whole project with the reserve if you do choose. So.
You know,
There is also the direction to continually to increase the general fund contribution to the capital program, and this will be reducing. We were proposing to minimize that reduction because every year we're trying to advance what we're putting general fund dollars into the capital program, and that's why we propose to take the minimal amount out of that we needed.
it was minimal plus just a little bit more, just to capture the whole thing, and go down to 3.24 or whatever. It's fine. That's fine.
But Jesse, do you need a straw poll or motion from us on that, or what's helpful on that?
So it would be helpful to know if that is the way that full council would like to go. I think this is really the point at which this budget shifts from being our recommended budget to yours. Ideally for your public hearing on the 12th, if you can give us some guidance on what you'd like to see in a final budget, we can do some messaging around that for the public hearing. So it would be useful to know.
You need a motion or just a straw poll or just
Either way, whatever the council feels.
So I'll move to approve what's suggested here in the memo with the line fiscal year 27 budget, additional comments, response to council questions.
Second.
Second that. Oh, sorry.
We have a motion, and Lori, you seconded first, so to speak. All right. We have a motion second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 And it is unanimous. Good. Thank you, Martha. Thank you for
Thank you.
a good memo.
Before we get,
Yeah.
were you going to move off this?
What?
Were you going to move off the budget?
That's next. Yeah, well, that's next item, is it?
So the next item is warn the public hearing. I just do want to note for the council that you still do have your other use of one-time funds on-off spreadsheet, which we don't need to revisit, but if you would like to revisit before you approve the final budget, you could. You can also make those decisions at any point during the fiscal year. So I just don't want to lose that comment.
Did council want to discuss that now or put it off until we need to?
I mean, do we need to put it off, or should we just finalize it?
Would you like me to share it on the screen so you
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about?
Mike,
That would be great, Jess.
is there any reason not to? I mean, is there any possibility that we might want to put other things into one-time funds?
So there is certainly the possibility that you might want to put other things into one-time funds. I think Martha, you're still here. Good. So Martha, can you remind us what the balance of the one-time funds is? We have not on this spreadsheet. It is $259,000. I believe it's about $580,000 of general fund balance that is kind of available to your 16.6% target. So there is still additional funds that you could allocate, and there is also, of course, the ARPA inspired fund balance. So we haven't fully we're not fully allocating everything, and we're not necessarily suggesting that you have to add all of these things in. There are a few that I would recommend you add in.
That are not here.
No, that are here.
Oh,
A few of these. Uh-oh. Ooh, wow. I don't know why it's so big. So, for example, the things that I think impact operations are the operations of the Economic Development Strategic Plan, the self-checkout replacement that is a priority project, and then with your just vote, you did this one.
I think what was Andrew, were you thinking at the 3.3 you were going to get everything on this list? When you authorized I was thinking when you authorized the motion on the 49,000 that you were trying to get to a 3.3% tax rate.
I was.
Which I think includes everything on that. No, it does not.
Well, this is just the use of one-time funds.
Well, the
so
one-time
it's
funds
outside-
doesn't impact the 3.3, right? So, I mean, these are optional items that we could choose to include or not, and then the 3.3 is independent, right?
But,
Yes.
Yeah.
but included in the 3.3 is a director of the Economic Development Plan and a DPW employee.
Correct.
And does that also include the city center and sexton's position?
Yes.
Item 16, eliminate for more strategic. So what is it? Is it keep it or eliminate? Is it
So-
more funding to eliminate something else, or?
So this is historically in this current year's budget, you have $28,000 for social service funding.
Yeah.
For the last several years, we've talked about how that's not a great system and maybe not as effective as it could be. So in the 3.3% budget right now, we've eliminated this 28,000 in the interest of when the chief comes forward with his recommendations. We also come forward with a recommendation to strategically use the opioid settlement dollars we have to more strategically fund our social service partners. But that was a decision I made as I recommended a budget to you. So if you wanted to reinstate the general funded support for social service organizations, you could reinstate the 28,000.
In addition.
In addition, yeah,
So those are the nonprofits that we funded last.
right.
We don't know what those are yet, but.
Well, you would go through a process to
Right,
identify
right.
them.
But
yeah.
that's what that money's for. Yeah, I'd kind of like to keep that for that purpose.
As a one-time?
Yeah, for now.
And then will you help flesh
Design
out a
a system.
process?
We need a process.
We need to revisit the process for allocating those funds, but I think they're important funds.
We are not scheduled to hear the SB3C additional request until the next meeting, first meeting in January. So I would look at that one and say, for purposes of budget finalization, that could come out of the incremental funds that Jesse said exist beyond this list.
Because you're saying that they may not request that again? Because they've already made this request.
I think they have that. This is additional.
No.
No. Sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. You can go. Well, yeah, if you can clarify that then.
So I think I've confused you guys by putting the total dollars in here. What I'm trying to show here is what, if you put these dollars into one-time funds, what you defer on a property tax impact. What we funded for SB3C in the base budget, now the 3.3% base budget, is level funding SB3C this year, FY26 to FY27,
Right.
which is 55,000, and they made a request for 75,000.
50.
No, we have 55,000 in this year's budget.
Oh, I thought it was 50 and 20. Okay.
I thought it was 55 to 75. Maybe it's 50 to 70. Is that? You know that?
It is 55, you're correct.
Okay. So it would be funding that additional $20,000 ask
So what are we
out of
hearing
one-time
at the next
funds.
meeting then?
So that's what they're coming in. They're coming in to present to you because there was some question about how they are using local taxes generally. So they're coming in to present on that. So I think if you want to hold on this one until after you heard their full presentation, that makes a lot of sense.
I agree.
There's a part of me that would. Sorry. There's a part of me that says, why don't we just revisit all of these at the same time?
Sure.
At the next meeting, or
Yeah, right, or whenever, the next time, or whenever it makes sense, rather than going, oh, okay, this one, yes, this one we'll put off, this one will.
okay, agree.
I'm okay with that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you for your patience. I just didn't want to lose that was still a
Yeah.
conversation to have.
Yeah.
Can I maybe add one thing there?
Oh, sorry.
So the library, the replacement for the check out, they did ask for two. The library board of trustee said that they would fund one if the city is able to fund the other one and it's part of the budget. So if the council could make a decision on that, then the board can make a decision to fund the other one.
I'm sorry, could you?
The line 18, the self-checkout
Yeah.
replacement, during the budget process, we shifted that over to one-time money, and so I think what I heard Martha say is the trustee. There's two sets of them, two scanners. The trustees were using monies for one.
Yep.
And other friends, is that how that works? And out of a different bucket of money, but we were looking to pay for this out of one-time money fund balance. And so I think that would be the one, that 18 and 19, you already approved line 19. Approving line 18 would be helpful for what
The
we,
budget communication.
yeah,
Yep.
communicating the budget to the library.
Whether we do the actual approval now or later, I think everybody on the council has agreed that we want to include that in the budget.
Yeah.
So we should be able to communicate that to the library now.
I think that's fair. Everybody agrees? Okay. Good. Anything else? Good. Well, then let's talk about a public hearing. Item 9.
Hey, Tim,
Yes, Lori.
before we get off the budget,
We're
I
still in the
just want to-
budget.
I just want to acknowledge that how grateful I am to be in South Burlington and not Burlington.
Oh,
And how
you,
great.
you
and
mean
how
12 million
grateful I-
times that you're thankful?
What's that?
You're 12 million times thankful?
I'm 12 million times thankful and more. And our budget team, which is everybody, including Martha, I just think that we are incredibly lucky to have the diligence and the focus and the attention on this that it's been given. And going forward, I just hope we can maintain the same level of integrity.
Thank you, Lori.
So thank you.
Huge amounts of credit to Martha specifically, who's maintained our finances for the last 10 years, 9 years, 9 years, with clean audits every year and budgets that come to you with accurate information in it. So huge credit to Martha.
So is the new accounting system going to make it even easier next year?
You guys, with the new software, we can build the budget in a product, not based on the, I don't know, 14 different Excel workbooks we currently use to build the budget.
Wow.
It's going to be amazing.
Well, we are incredibly fortunate to be
It's
where we
still
are
confident,
financially.
Steve.
Can we just upload all the numbers to AI and say, just build the budget for us? You know, you never know.
Stop, Tim.
And then we could all be replaced by AI, and then, you know. Okay, item 9. We're in a public hearing on the budget. Do we need a discussion of this? Do we need a motion to warn?
So I move to approve the public notice and warn a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 27 general fund budget and enterprise fund budgets and proposed amendments to the fiscal year 2027 through 2036 capital improvement plan for January 12th, 2025 at 7 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 And it is unanimous. We are going to have a public hearing on this budget. Congratulations. Thank you to the staff for all their hard work.
Thank you. Thank you, Martha.
And now we're going to go to item 10, which is hold a bond necessity hearing on the expansion of Fire Station 1 for the Fire Prevention Unit and possibly take action. Stephen Locke, Fire Chief. Come on down anyway.
Do you need help?
Oh, he's...
Just realizing that I was supposed to
That he was up.
be a panelist and I wasn't prepared. Like, oh no, I gotta control my own slides.
I'm giggling back there.
We're close. Good evening. Thank you for having this agenda item on. So this is my first time working through a necessity hearing. Go ahead and go to that next slide. But it really is a hearing that is required before we can put an item on the ballot for voter consideration. So it's really, outlined in state statute, but ensuring that that this is in the public interest, that the costs are too great to be paid for from ordinary annual income, and that the final would be that you make that decision to take this question to the voters on town meeting day. And so this is really an overview of the presentation of what we're proposing. I think really appreciated the council coming to on site here a couple of months ago. It was very helpful for me, and I think it was helpful for you as well to see what we were talking about. So again, this is a snapshot of the conditions of that temporary office trailer that we're currently having our rental registry staff work out of. And, ultimately it's difficult to heat in the winter, difficult to cool in the summer, lacks bathroom or break room space, and there's really no room to meet the public. And it does create a divergence between our fire marshal, assistant fire marshal, electrical inspector, and then the rental registry team. And the objective is to bring them all under one roof. We have been working with a consultant on a design, so that we're proposing that this would be placed on the north side of the building. Making some slight tweaks to our previous discussions with you about it. It takes it up to about 2,300 square feet, a little over 2,300 square feet, where we were initially talking about about 2,000 square feet. We needed to add we wanted to add a break room, basically a kitchenette in this space. But it does give us the bathrooms and the break rooms that we need, as well as a conference room space for access with construction contractors who come in and meet with our team. The photo on the right is what their proposed layout is. So you'd have the ability to have, again, your small utility closet in either office space or cubicles for the team. Currently the fire department does not have administrative staff or administrative support. Future need, that would be a future room for future growth, as well as there's additional office space that allows us for future growth if we were to do additional types of code enforcement by this team.
TLT is toilet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are the inspectors the rental registry? Right now there's one individual.
So right now, the rental registry team is a team of 2 1/4. Yeah, we have a part-time, 2 full-time, 1 part-time. We have a fire marshal, assistant fire marshal, and electrical inspector. There's extra space here. There's room for growth.
So one of the inspectors who was the woman who was answering.
Yeah, she's Patty, our rental registry manager.
Is Patty considered an inspector? I don't see I see assistant fire marshal, and
we anticipate the 2 large, and I think we would, again, this is just the initial layout. Our 2 managers are our fire marshal and Patty, our rental registry manager. And so while the 2 bigger spaces are labeled for the fire marshal and assistant fire marshal, that would most likely be the fire marshal and the rental registry manager. Those 2 are the people who are most often having difficult conversations on the phone in a place that would be beneficial having a quiet space.
And then where would the assistant fire?
It would just be one of those inspector offices. They're ultimately our inspectors come in the morning, return phone calls, do emails, and they're on the road and come in at the end of the day and close out for the day. So, that's the type of work I'm talking about.
I would encourage you to think about changing the language on one of those so it's clearer.
Understand we're under a pretty tight timeline to get these together so that we could get them on your agenda for tonight. Schematics of a street view, and again, the white is the new construction, and then the next photo is more of an aerial view of this, and we certainly have communicated to our staff. The one challenge that's shown here is that we do have a lot of staff parking. The parking configuration here, we would need a little bit more work to ensure we had enough parking available for our team. But again, there's a big footprint there, and we don't think that that's necessarily a big hurdle, but it will be something that we'll be talking and working through.
What kind of construction materials is there going to be? Like a concrete
pad?
Or it's a pad?
It'll be on a
and there'll
concrete
be-
pad.
Will there be concrete walls around the edges and then stick build?
Yeah, to be quite honest, this is just preliminary, and I'm not sure what they've priced. They have priced it. It's basically $1,000 a square foot, and it's amazing to me that that's the price now of construction. But it'll be something similar to fit what's currently there.
There's no need for steel frame in this at all. It's just one story.
One story. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, a 2-story requires an elevator, and the costs go up significantly. So, keeping it single floor for this type of usage.
Will it be sprinkled before the firehouse?
No, we will have the fire station sprinkled this spring.
Okay,
that bid has been awarded. About to be awarded. It's close.
And the reason that the roof is sloped is to bring the snow down, or it was the design consideration? Or?
Just the design consideration.
Okay.
Lori, did I cut you off?
No, I was interjecting. So, the $1,000 a square foot, I'm just questioning how that number was arrived at, and I know costs have escalated a lot, but I've been involved with a number of projects, and that seems excessive. So I'm wondering how that number was justified.
Sure. So, ultimately, we use Dorr Whittier, architectural firm out of Burlington, does a lot of work all through New England, including several fire station constructions in the Massachusetts area. They sent it out to 2 different. They call it pricing estimators, and that was the number they came back at. Well, you'll see the numbers in the next slides, but this is what they do for a living. So this is based on a 2027 construction season, because ultimately we would miss a 2026 construction season if this goes to the voters in March, and they're estimating about almost 2.5 million for total cost, including the building, and then ultimately the site, what they're showing there for the site and the building. Funding working through with Martha on a $2.3 million bond for 20 years. The annual payment's about $170,000. A conservative estimate on the capital construction or the capital assessment fee that you passed back in August is that would generate about $150,000. That $150,000 does not include any of the fees that are being currently paid by the new ordinance on single-family homes. So we're already seeing an impact of that, because there's a fee there charged on those homes. So we believe that is conservative. And then if you take, we're currently seeing a surplus of revenues on the rental registry housing program, and through FY24 we continue to see excess revenues, and that works out on average to about $85,000 a year during those 7 years. But if you take that over the 20 years, so you take that $600,000, this 85 times 7 divided over 20, it gets you about $30,000. So between the capital assessment fee as well as surplus revenues generate on average about $180,000 of revenue to pay about $170,000 of debt. And the annual surplus on rental registries does not take in consideration any additional rental housing being built in the next 20 years. So ultimately, anything new drives up that number, and ultimately could always come back to council to reconsider the value of that capital assessment fee. I think right now it's at 0.25%. If you ever had to, that would be an easy way to adjust that. But again, showing that the system will pay for itself. And currently, there's through the first 2.5 years of the rental registry program, we're sitting on about 200,000 of cash in that program, and that gets you the difference between the 2.3 and the 2.5 in construction.
And this bond would be from the Vermont Bond Bank?
It is, although Martha, it's small enough that Martha wants to leave her options open to consider other types of financing that would get a better rate through our bank, perhaps.
Through what bank?
A bank.
A bank. Oh,
yeah.
a bank. Okay.
Martha, finance director, wants to keep her options open, and I've realized that I'd like to do what she wants me to do.
I understand.
And Steve, just to clarify, we're going to talk about the language on a proposed ballot language, but the ballot language can't include the intent to fund this. It has to be, I mean, the community is at risk for, like, just say capital assessment fees and rental registry revenues dried up. The way that it's proposed to be on the ballot language, the community is responsible through taxpayer dollars to fund the bond, correct?
Correct.
So some of this will be education in the budget process, and
yeah. I mean, I think our objective is, if approved, we will then very quickly internally start switching to advocacy. I can't advocate. I can educate. Sorry, wrong word. Wrong business. Yeah, we would go into the education mode, working with Andy to ensure people knew how our intention of paying for this would be. However, as we know, it's always when the community takes out debt, the community is responsible for that debt. So in your packet, I think your packet has the litany of everything you need. But if you choose to move forward, the two motions that would be needed are at the bottom half of this slide. And with that, we'll take any questions you have.
I recall, maybe incorrectly, that initially we were thinking about 10-year bond.
So initially, we were thinking we were going to be able to pay for it for 10 years with a capital lease, which the maximum number there is 10 years. And then, period. When we couldn't do that, we reevaluated to go to 20 years. But the other thing that took away about $40,000 of excess revenue a year was this year, building the budget that you just reviewed. We assigned about $40,000, a little over $40,000 of rental registry fees to the general fund. So we're paying a portion of my salary, a portion of Chris's salary, and then all the HR, finance, legal at the same proposal, at the same percentage that every other enterprise funds pays. We charge that to the rental registry fee. So in order to help achieve the 3.3% goal, we applied the same fee to the this rental registry fee. We charged all the other enterprise fees, and that takes away $40,000 that would drive up the available money to pay for the debt on a shorter term.
Yes, just to be clear, we did that for parity across the enterprise funds, not for this bond.
Right. Yeah, we purposely looked at the two very, very differently. Like, we were treating one enterprise program different than we were treating all the other enterprise programs.
Is there the potential, I know you're keeping the options open on the financing mechanism, is there potential to reduce that time period and that might utilize more of it looks like the capital assessment fee is going to be the lion's share of this, but to utilize the surplus on the rental registry revenues?
I think, there's nothing that prohibits the bond the bond could be paid off early. And I think that I'm sure Martha, if she saw we were sitting on excess revenue, we would either pay down the debt or refinance the debt to a shorter term. but there's nothing that would prohibits us doing that at any given time.
And interest rates are only going to get better.
Yeah, and I think we were conservative. I think we were conservative when we ran this at 4%.
So Steve, I'm 100% behind this project and can't wait for you guys to have the space you need to work efficiently. I am kind of, I don't know why I didn't notice this before, but I'm blown away by the $1,000 a square foot number. And I hope that we give that the analysis that it really deserves, because it seems from other projects I've been involved in, even recently, that number is hopefully something that can be beaten.
I hope so too. And ultimately this will go out to bid, right? So if approved by the voters, one of the first things we'll do is put out bid documents, and then we'll let the market drive it. But I think it is always better to, in this case, I think we're following the recommendation of our consultant, and it's better to come in, be conservative on our estimate than not have enough and have to scale back a project and regret it.
I totally agree with that. And if in fact it comes in at $750 a square foot instead of $1,000, we can use only a portion of the bond that's been approved. Is that correct?
That's correct. We would just borrow less money.
Right. A bond authorization is only ever, it authorizes the council to borrow up to this amount of money. It doesn't say you have to do the project at all, and it doesn't say you have to borrow that much money.
Excellent. Thank you.
A question in the audience. You need to come down and use the mic and identify yourself, please.
Ashley Brooks. I'm just still wondering why we have ordinances that are known for being enforced, except the person who's getting their own office doesn't believe in fining people according to our city ordinances. Shouldn't that be helping this fund? But also, $100 or $1,000 a square foot, that's a 10 by 10 bathroom for $100,000. I got that quote too, and they laughed. I think they might be taking advantage of their resume for having done too many fire departments. But I'm primarily concerned with why we still don't use those penalties people owe us.
Thank you. The funds we're talking about using here are funds derived from the rental registry and from the impact fee.
That is correct.
And the rental registry also accumulates penalty funds as well, right?
I think all of our ordinance have language in there that allows us to issue a penalty for a violation.
Yeah.
I think that's an option, always an option. That would not be monies that would be used to pay for this. Those would be general fund dollars.
Right. Any other comments by anybody on the line? Is there anybody on the line?
No.
Nobody? Okay. This is the last slide? I can't remember.
It is. I left it up there in case someone would like to see the motions.
Yeah, if you're ready for the motion.
I have a question on the first motion that has less to do with the content and more when the content of why we're doing this, and more it talks about there being a public information meeting on Monday, March 2nd at city offices. So is that separate from what has historically been the meeting in city, in some school? Is it now in here? And there's, but there's the school does their presentation and that. Okay, how quickly we forget. Thank you.
So I move to adopt the resolution of necessity for capital improvement project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 It passes unanimously.
And I move to adopt the declaration of official intent of the city of South Burlington to reimburse certain expenditures from proceeds of indebtedness.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 That also passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Too bad it's on the north
Yeah,
side.
Brian.
We could put some solar panels on that roof, but it's facing the wrong way. We're supposed to have solar-ready roofs. Why don't you build it on the other side? Build it in the district's, the school district's parking lot, and then never mind.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 11, which is receive a revision to section 3.18 residential and commercial building energy standards of the city's land development regulations, provide direction to staff. Go ahead.
Right. So I don't know, a couple meetings ago, Paul Connor shared with us that because of the governor's executive order, his conclusion was that the rules that we had adopted as a city and a council for EV charging in new construction would basically not be applicable anymore.
Why is that? I just explain that part to me, because it's part of the RBS, not the LDRs.
Well, so what I understood Paul to say when I looked at the rules, what we referenced in the rules we adopted were the RBs and CBs, and the governor has now made those documents to 2020. So because of our reference to the RBs, it's now the 2020
All right.
and
So
we needed to reference the 2024 RBs.
Yeah.
So when I looked at it, and what I drafted was really simply correcting the cross-reference, and by that correction, we then retain our policy. So I would hope we as a council can agree. We don't have to adopt what I wrote, but at least ask Paul and our city attorney to look at it. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, suggest improvements and hopefully fix what I think is a cross-reference issue in order to retain the policy that we as a council have already agreed makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Now, does this mean we need to pass that through the planning commission as well? Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm curious as to, out of all of the changes that the governor's that are happening, what makes EV charging the one thing that we're going to hang our hat on and risk perhaps a lawsuit?
Well, as explained by Paul, that's the only thing that impacts us from the governor's changes.
Right. This long memo detailed
Okay.
all of how the governor's action would impact our
Okay, and it's
LDRs.
only the.
And this was the thing that was at risk because it was not.
And if we do this, is there a what are the risks?
Well, I don't think there are any, but
Well,
I'm
a developer, and we're
writing rules, Sam.
but these are against what.
Well, we can let our
I mean, I just want to know if what is the risk?
My understanding from the last meeting was that Paul said that if we corrected this, it would avoid the problem of being in conflict with the governor's order. And unless Colin tells us otherwise, it doesn't sound like there is a specific risk on this.
Well, at this point, Colin McNeil, City Attorney, good evening. I think at this point we have looked at the language, I read it. We haven't done a deep dive into the legal analysis of it to identify the risks. I think this would have to work its way through the process like the statutes require. It has to go through the Planning Commission. It has to go through a public process. It has to have a public hearing. If it makes it through that process, it has to have a public hearing before it's even adopted. There's been some interesting developments with the governor's executive order in that the attorney general said a lot of it is not compliant with the law. Some of it was, some of it was not. So the risks moving forward, just off the cuff, would almost be: is this the right language? Do we want to have specific language that references a certain year of these building standards? that would require us, if they are amended in the future, to come back and amend it again. So some forward thinking, would it put us in trouble, and would this be against the governor's executive order? It doesn't necessarily seem like it. It seems like we're just adopting a standard. The question would be, do we have a legal authority to adopt the standard in the first place? That's something different than the energy standards that have been approved by the state. If the state does go through rulemaking and does change the standards, so we can all look at that while this works its way through the system, if necessary. I think that pretty much answers the question. I can't say one way or another. Yeah, if we do this, we're going to get sued. If we don't do this, we're not. We could always get sued for doing anything. And I think one of the conversations we had last time would be, if it does get passed, is it ripe for appeal? And if it does get appeal, could it be overturned by the environmental division and work its way up through the court? If someone was forced to do this and then appealed it, that's always a risk with any time you pass a regulation. But I think the bottom line is what we'd have to really dive into is whether we have the authority to pass this in the first place.
I mean, in reading the memo that we got this morning from the city manager, reporting, I guess from Paul, that reminding me that typically the council assigns topics and doesn't give specific language. And so if we're going to ask the planning commission, which is the proper body to do it, I would want them to look and I mean, they my understanding is they accepted the EV. They were supportive, as was the council, of the EV standards. So that's probably an easy thing for them to do and for staff to look at. But I really would, I mean, the legislature doesn't give expects the legislature to vote on things like this. And so the possible legal pushback, I would want the planning commission to look at that aspect as well, because we're a home rule state. I mean, the legislature, you know, if we want to pass certain ordinances, the legislature has to approve them. And so we're not going to do that. That's not our thing, right? Right now, we're just going to have to change that. And I think we need to look at the risks. Not that we wouldn't do it, but to look at the legal landscape and risks.
So there's two things that are in play here. One is we don't even know if the executive order has any validity, right? And that'll play out through the legislature in the next session to some degree. But at the same time, we can move this ball forward, right, by having planning and zoning staff, take Andrew's language and develop it as they see fit to present to the planning commission, and then have that worked into the LDRs. So I think it's very low risk for that process, right? So
I agree that it's low risk. I would like there to be in the direction to the planning commission that they also look at that risk.
Do they have the ability to look at that risk in general? I don't know.
I would say, just as you always weigh, once you have legal counsel reviewing ordinances, both bodies, I think, always look at risk.
And again, the risk that you're identifying is whether we have the power.
I'm sorry?
The risk that you're worried about is whether we have the power to do this. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, so we already concluded in the first round that we did, but fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any issue moving this through the process and taking Paul's recommendations that came through Jesse's email to us on Saturday. With the only thing I would ask is that this will be as schedules and priorities permit, both for planning commission and for city staff, because we do have other agreed upon priorities. This could be something that those folks could say, we can do this in 5 minutes,
right,
and on a a meeting within the next 2 months, or they could say, you know, we've got a full plate right now and we need to get through the next 3 months before we even put this on an agenda. So I would like that consideration by both planning commission and city staff.
Mhm.
But don't see any reason that it couldn't move
Fine.
forward.
I mean, just acknowledging that our city plan says that all policy decisions as a principle are viewed through the lens of climate change mitigation resilience. I would hope this would take a high priority.
And they could get it bundled in the next LDR
And
changes that
just
would
saying,
come. So
they know what their schedules are.
Yeah.
We've agreed to an annual work plan and they can determine that.
So the direction is that council agrees that it should be.
So
Do you need a motion?
just because you all have referenced, yes, we do need a
We do?
motion.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh.
But you don't have it because we did it late. So let me share it. What happened to my share button? Ooh, that's fun.
What happened? There we go.
This is the potential motion. I can make it a little bigger.
So I move to direct the planning commission
Sorry, Andrew.
as
Sorry.
part of their current fiscal year work plan to consider amendments to the land development regulations, LDRs, to assure that electrical vehicle charging station requirements embedded within the 2024 Vermont CBs and RBs and referenced in our LDRs are locally codified, providing my language as a sample.
I missed the last part of what you said if you were not just reading it entirely, but I agree with what Elizabeth was suggesting as added language around, or maybe we just give that as the direction within their plans.
This is as
It says
part of
as
the current
part
fiscal
of their
year
current
work plan.
fiscal year work plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Does
We
that,
I'll
does that
second.
fit for you?
I would just make a friendly amendment that we ask the planning commission to let us know when that would be considered. So just let us know the timing.
When they could work on it? Is that what you're asking? Or-
Well, the current fiscal year plan will run through June, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to let us know what,
Like by presenting to us?
no, just to.
Through email?
When it's on the agenda. That's
I mean, alerting us?
Well, I'll know.
So,
Anybody
so,
else?
so Elizabeth, does this language work for you in terms of the comment you made, in terms of wondering what impact at all this might have on their current work plan?
The only caveat I would have is I don't really know there's 6 months left of the fiscal year. So I don't know if that is jam-packed with 100% of the time scheduled. So all I'm asking is that they prioritize this and I think it's fine the way it's worded and would anticipate that could be wedged in the next 6 months.
Would you like Paul to get back to us with where he thinks this would fall within their current work?
Who schedules the planning commission submitted a work plan, so I guess to
Right,
me
but
it's,
staff kind of like gives them stuff to work on at every meeting, right? And so they've got that all planned out in advance, I think. So
I don't see a need to micromanage it, but it's really, because this is another add to the work plan, and I know it's being referenced as a modest change. That's what probably I don't know, and so I'm saying yes, move it through the process, and I don't know what impact that has on your time, Colin, Paul's time, and the planning commission's time.
And Colin, this proposed language, does this give the planning commission and staff or whatever the assumed direction to also look at the legality.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that anytime the planning commission looks at new changes to the land development regulations, they often will either staff will come check with legal to make sure that they're on sound footing, or the planning commission will ask directly through staff what our opinions are. And sometimes we can go to the planning commission directly, or sometimes we brief staff, or sometimes we can generate a memo for the planning commission to consider. But yeah, we generally always do that.
Okay.
So this amount of work is pretty narrow, right? I mean, oftentimes they're given like a map and they're said, move these colors around to represent what you think should be parts of the city that have X, Y, and Z, right? And then they talk about that, for a long time to come up with the concepts to narrow this stuff down. This is more succinct, a lot more succinct. So.
Yeah, I understand that. And let me I was going to respond, Anne, to my understanding from Paul in the previous presentation is that this is within the council's authority through the process that's normally run. So that is less of a concern from my standpoint with the executive order. I think my concern is that a message is sent, this should be the top priority that you do next, because I don't know what's on the work plan right now.
Well, this doesn't say make it your top. It just says put it in your part of your current fiscal year work plan. So.
And I said I'm satisfied with this language.
Okay. So we still need a second.
I seconded it.
You did. You didn't do it loud enough. That's the COVID.
I
not
second.
Talking. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Do you have any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 So that's unanimous as well. Thank you for your proposal, Andrew. All right. So item 12, review the significant agenda topics below for the January 5th. Well, it's December, and that's next year, so we don't have to worry about it, right?
So you are familiar with all these already. This is the presentation from SB3C that we already talked about. Any continuation of the budget discussion you want to have, and then the public hearing on the TIF substantial change application to VEPC.
Right.
Will we finalize our decisions on the items we were looking at on the 5th meeting?
Yes.
We need to before the 12th, so that should be added also.
I think that will be part of your FY27 budget discussion. I'll just be sure to call it out more clearly in that agenda item.
Perfect, thank you.
Great. Any other comments on item 12? Okay, going to item 13, which is other business. I had something, but I just want to hear from anybody else if they have any other business first.
I guess the one that came up tonight is, could we get something scheduled for a future agenda on the rec list that was reviewed as part of the budget, including this analysis report on the rec impact fees and those projects? Or should that be part of the master? Well, it doesn't look like some of those were included in the master plan at this point.
Right. So the recreation and parks, or the Parks and Open Space Master Plan, which includes recreation spaces, is meant to be and intends to be a typical master plan for the city. So it wasn't driven by what was in a 12-year-old ordinance. It was really driven by what the current needs of the city are. With on the policies and strategies work plan for the year, once we've adopted that, to revisit the recreation impact ordinance with that as a report, so we could realign what the projects are that will be funded by recreation impact fees.
And do we have a date for that yet?
No.
I guess I feel like because there is some institutional knowledge or historic perspective that often gets lost in translation, that this historical assessment, even if it's a dated study, would be helpful to getting prior to the master plan, rather than jettisoning it all as, and it sounds like some of the impact fees were tied to specific projects. So I'm not sure if what I'm hearing from you, Jesse, is the master plan rebases everything, or I guess it would be helpful from my perspective. I mean, I could do this anyway. If it's just me and I do it one-on-one with Adam or something, I'm fine doing that. just seeing some of those projects and not having that historical perspective, I think that would be helpful maybe prior to going into the master plan presentation.
I support that.
Is the open space plan fully done? Are they?
No.
They're not done
No.
yet. Okay. Because there has to be some reconciliation of this historical stuff, right? Projects that have not been done, and there's money for them, and what we think needs to be done next, right? Yeah. Okay.
Can we just make sure that the document you're talking about, Elizabeth, gets forwarded to the CRO so they have it in their consideration? Does that satisfy what you're looking for?
Could you repeat it?
So I don't think that I don't think that's enough, Lori. I think that those are very historic projects that somebody's going to have to go back and research why they didn't move forward at the time. So I think that that's better done by city staff first to understand, in 2014, why something may not have moved forward. So I think we need to know that historic analysis before we start building it into a future analysis, but data that we can show you. We will not be able to do that by January 5th. Just to manage expectations.
And it sounds like there's a draft MOU as well that
Yeah, so
out there.
do you want me to talk about South Village?
Say again?
Do you want me to talk about South Village or do you?
Yeah, so I was going to, I just want to say that the South Village issue has been boiling along, simmering along for a while now. And I think last summer there was some more wetland delineation work that was done that threw a couple curveballs because they expected to do it on this space, right? And then some wetland cut in and change it around. So, but the fact remains that South Village has been around for quite a while, and they have this space that's dedicated for this purpose, and nothing's been built, right? And so they've been asking for a couple of years now to try and let's get a plan together. Let's agree, and the HOA wants to set that table, so to speak, right, about what functionality they want on it. And I don't think the soccer field is really is there anymore. That's not what they want. They want something more.
Is this something that is would be open for the community, or is this?
So
is this something? This is completely new for me. Is this something that is for the benefit of the people who live in South Village, or could those of us from the other side of town bicycle over there and use it?
It's part of their PUD, so I think that's part of the original plan of the whole South Village project, right?
Can I give a little history
Sure.
here? So, yes, as part of the South Village redevelopment, a permit condition was put on that there would be some public recreational facility. So that would be public for the South Village residents, also public for anybody, not just as O'Brien is currently building similar public parks that we will take over in the future. It's a permit condition. Does that make sense?
That little park
Mhm.
that's on the corner
Mhm.
before all the townhouse.
Yes. Yeah.
In terms of so that little park that
Are you in South Village now, or are you in O'Brien?
I'm in O'Brien.
Yes. So if you are driving, you're in O'Brien. The park right in front of Dawn's house.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a public park.
That will become a public park when the city accepts it.
Because I also see on the list of the things that we'd never seen before, Old Farm Road, and something off of Old Farm Road, and I'm looking at things on my side of town as opposed to the other side of town. So I like, Elizabeth, I like your idea of getting more history. Sorry, I cut you off.
No. So what I'm trying to explain is separate from the old history. So
Okay.
Yes, old history on the impact fees ordinance. So South Village, permit required to build a public amenity as part of South Village. It was per the permit, it's supposed to be a soccer field. When I started, what we learned is that this only soccer field that could fit there is a U8 I want to say use 6 soccer fields, so a kids soccer field. And it was determined jointly by the developer and the city and the HOA at the time that that's really not the highest and best use for the parcel. So we started a conversation about what kind of public amenity would we want to see, which will require them to go back to Act 250 to get re-permitted, because it's a whole different permitting system. So then, as the gentleman here tonight said, we developed an MOU with them to say, yes, we are all in agreement that what was originally planned is probably not in the highest and best use for anybody. So let's think about what the amenity is we actually want there for the community. But by the way, we're going through this parks and open space master planning process. So let's make sure that in that process, we are committed to whatever this long-term vision is going to be. And he is right that we did not execute that MOU because the wetland delineation changed. So it massively changed where we can actually put development on that field. So we should have gone back to him and said, here's how the wetlands change. Here's how we can rewrite the MOU to still capture our shared goal of some public recreation amenity at South Village. And I'll follow up with him on that. But I think that the city's intention and his intention and the HOA's intention are all the same thing, which is to make sure that that we meet our permit requirements and that there is some public amenity for the neighborhood and the city at South Village. That's the history as I understand.
Yeah, and I would want to go back and understand if there was some kind of a vote that the community expected a soccer field, and did that get closed out at all? Because I've only heard a soccer field associated with that, and didn't know how that got locked in, or
because it's a permit condition. That's how it's got locked in.
So there is an existing permit that says.
At some point in that process, somebody said, "Oh, that'd be a great place for a soccer field," just arbitrarily, right? And that became part of the permit.
Were you on the DRB at that point? Were you on the DRB at that point?
No, this is pre-TPB.
Whoa.
Pre-TPB. But I mean, that's how those things develop, right? They go, "What can we put here? A children's playground," right? And they go, "Okay." And so usually,
This is maybe education for me, but when you have a permit and you have to change it, what's that process?
Back to Act 250 now, right? Unless, does Tier 1A allow us to go in and
At the speed we're moving, Tier 1A may get us out of Act 250 on this.
It might. It might indeed. So anyway, that's the history. I will follow up with the HOA.
Yeah, and so nothing's going to happen quickly, right? Because the master plan needs to be woven into this thing, right? And then also the MOU and also the new wetland delineations, and so we'll get there. Okay. I don't have anything else for other business.
I just want to make one comment.
Sure.
So, a few times members of the public have come before the council and asked us to articulate certain policies.
To pass what?
To pass certain policies. Yeah. And the council or one or more of us may disagree that makes sense. I just want people to know you're being heard. Because we may disagree doesn't mean you're not being heard. It just means we don't agree. And in a democracy that sometimes happens. And personally, I am happy, and I've said this, to talk one-on-one with anyone to explain what I think. And I'm sure each of us is happy to do that as well. So that you can, be comfortable. You are being heard, right? Talk it through. And I thought that was just important to say.
Thanks, Andrew. I agree. Yeah. So,
Tim, I had one other quick question.
Oh, go ahead.
Do we have a date for a Dorset shared use path?
I'm sorry.
The question is, do we have a date for the Dorset shared use path?
The landowners
waiting
have
to see if there's going to be an appeal
through early January or something.
Okay.
What is the next step since we've issued our final our decision, right, which is posted on the city website about the necessity hearing?
That's correct. I think they have 30 days from the date of our decision to file an appeal.
Okay.
We sent out an email from our from Dave Rue, who's our attorney, to all of you. I think it explained the appeal deadlines. There's kind of two separate processes. One is appeal to damages, one is appeal to taking. They may have slightly different deadlines, but it's all right around the same time.
And that date is now what? The 30 days out.
Well, it was December 2nd that we issued the
Okay.
decision, so it'd be early January.
Yeah, okay. Does that answer your question?
Sorry, I thought you had been soliciting dates at some point and
I've been soliciting days for
forgot
something
that.
else.
Okay.
For the grievance, yeah. There's a grievance. That hasn't been set yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Other business?
No, but Andrew, I don't disagree with you. There are other ways for the community to bring something besides, I mean, if they did a petition, correct? That we might have to act on that, but they would have to bring, and there's a certain number of signatures and things like that. And we did get a communication from someone not from South Burlington who attached different resolutions that cities and towns did. I looked at a couple of them and they were very different. I mean, you know, one was sort of general human rights and others were very specific.
One last comment I'll make. This is the first time in a while I've been virtual, and it definitely is not the same as sitting there. For instance, I didn't know Colin was sitting there waiting to answer questions, so I was speaking out of turn because he's the one to answer them. So hopefully I don't have to be virtual too often because it's a disadvantage.
We miss you.
Come back in January, okay?
I hope that red line is gone by then.
Good.
And I'm still testing negative.
Fabulous. And Anne, I was not at all suggesting any comment about you when I was talking about people walking around with colds.
Oh, cool. All right, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you very much. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. Have a nice holiday. Everybody come back safe and sound in January. Don't go anywhere to sign things.
Thanks, everybody.